Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2, joining me today is...
A geek for fun.
And a geek for evil.
And I fucked up the intro, but that's okay, because I don't think I have it in me tonight to do the Crypt Keeper voice, but
Ghouly gentlemen!
thank you, Steve.
Hey,
Yeah, we're
Welcome
doing...
to Geeky Gentlemen Horror Month.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, we're kicking off Geeky Gentlemen Horror Month for the month of October. Gonna be a bit of a weird first week upload schedule, sorry about that, but here we are. And Steve has chosen our first horror film to review. Steve, what are we reviewing today?
Today, we're talking about something that is timely, which is not a Ghouly Gentleman regular occurrence. We are talking about the 2022 film, The Black Phone. Directed by Scott Dickerson and written by Scott Dickerson and frequent collaborator C. Robert Cargill. It stars also frequent collaborator Ethan Hawke and some kids who I don't know the names of, who are essentially, well, you know, we'll get into it, but it's a horror movie. It's about kids. It's kind of a coming of age story. Dickerson you might know from a lot of things, actually, because he made the first Doctor Strange movie and then left the second Doctor Strange movie, citing creative differences. But before that, he's a pretty prominent horror filmmaker. He did Sinister. He did one of the Hellraiser direct-to-video movies that is basically just there to keep the rights at that point.
I remember that one.
Yeah, he did the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still that everyone hated, starring Keanu Reeves, which, you know, was pretty bad, but it wasn't that bad. I'm pretty sure he did that weird exorcism movie that I am blanking on the name of, but he's been around the horror scene is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. This is an interesting one. It's funny. Of all those movies, I liked this.
Yeah, no, all the rest are trash.
Yeah, no, this was an interesting one. I really wasn't sure what we were going to get. Like, you know, the movie starts and there's like the baseball game, right? And the one kid like loses and he's kind of like looking at the kid that got the hit off of him, and he's like, God dang it. And then he's you know in the fucking baseball field later playing with his rocket, and then you see the kid like vanish basically or die or something. You're not really sure what at that point, and you're like, oh, is this fucking kid like gonna be making phone calls and killing people? Is this gonna be the horror movie? And then it takes quite a drastic turn after that. But it was an interesting way to start. It was a very unique premise, I feel, for a horror movie, to do this like supernatural thriller alongside like a serial killer kind of almost slasher level vibe. I don't know, it was a neat little mishmash of things.
Yeah, no, it's based on a short story by Joe Hill, which Alfie actually read. So Alfie is more prepared than anyone here tonight, which is not a usual occurrence by any stretch.
Damn.
But
I mean, yeah.
but no, it's based on a short story, and the premise is interesting because there's a level of this that feels very Stephen King, as it should, because it's written by Joe Hill, who's his son. But Joe Hill has kind of an angsty edge to him. So if Stephen King was outright angsty and grew up in a culture obsessed with serial killers, he would write this, and I feel like it kind of has that flavor. But I've not read the short story. I don't know what the differences are. If Alfie, you have any insights on that?
Yeah, and so I think the emphasis on it and like why I could read it is like when we say short story, we mean short story. It's 7,000 words. It's tiny. It's literally, you could read it in like 30 minutes. It's really, really sparse. But it's basically they did a one-to-one adaptation, except they just expanded the core idea. The beats of it are very similar. We end and begin in the same place, and the lines are literally, because there's very few spoken lines in the book. In the short story, because it's so short. But what is said is all in the film. They just obviously have to add an entire movie around it. Some details in terms of the main kid Finney's backstory are changed in terms of like what his social situation is, what his parental life is like, what his sister's age is. Like he's the little brother in the short story, or he's the big brother in the story. Like there's changes that are made for sure, which I think just all work for the benefit of it. And this was made in close collaboration with the author of the short story. And he's very happy with how this turned out and stuff. So like, I think it is very much you had a really good short story like pitch, and someone was like, "Oh, this is really good. We can make this a movie." We expand it out, and then working with the author of like, "Okay, so if I had more time, here's what I would do with this and this and this and this." But everything that's in this film is in the short story in some way, shape, or form. It's just like what would turn into a sentence gets turned into like a sequence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's cool. It's funny because I didn't know the connection to King here. But the thing this reminds me the most of is when King's short stories get adapted, because everyone like has their fucking camps on like It and The Shining and stuff, and those are like long fucking books. But like there's kind of a universal agreement that like King's short stuff usually gets to be his best adaptations, where you've got like Shawshank Redemption and what's the name of it with fucking Ian McKellen? Oh shit, I can't remember the fucking name of it. They're both in the same book initially. Is Shawshank Redemption, and the name that escapes me about this kid who finds a former SS commander that's like hiding out in the suburbs, and just gets like obsessed with him and gets the guy to like put on his old uniform and march around and do Nazi shit. It's fucking craziness that they adapted that. I don't think you'd be able to get that made today. Teen idolizes Nazi? No, that's too problematic.
Probably don't want to search that. I do know the collection of short stories you're talking about with Stephen King, because it's called Different Seasons, but I don't know what story you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because like there's a number of other ones. Fucking Steve and we reviewed 1408, and we think it's like a better movie than it was a story.
1408 is really good. Yeah, that's one of the horror movies that like ever since we reviewed it, I always forget how good it actually is.
Yeah, no, it fucking holds up. And that's just a shorter fucking King book, right? Like, I mean, For All Seasons is like novellas as opposed to 7,000 word short stories, but still. So I don't know, it's something fucking else with these boys and their short story adaptations.
So here's the reason I didn't decide to go and read the story like Alfie did, because Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, obviously. So like when he gets his career started as writing short stories, my brain goes, oh, so he's doing like his dad did, which is writing short stories. But if you look at a collection of Stephen King short stories, it's like a 700-page book with like 3 stories. Mm-hmm. They're all like 300 pages. His novellas are longer than like most texts of Gothic literature in the 1900s.
Apt Pupil.
Insane.
Yeah, no, it's fucking crazy. Apt Pupil was the one I was thinking of. They adapted it in 98. And, okay, wait, when the fuck did Shawshank Redemption... Did Apt Pupil get made because Shawshank Redemption was a surprise hit?
Oh, that's really funny.
When the fuck did Shawshank Redemption come out? 94. I'm gonna hot take. I think Apt Pupil got a film adaptation because Shawshank Redemption did really well. That's my theory.
Oh my god. Apt People. I know that movie exists. I think Ian McKellen's in it, right?
Yeah, he
And
plays the Nazi, which is funny.
oh, that's hilarious, Magneto. Let's go. Wait. So Alfie or Ian, you liked the movie. Alfie, did you like the movie?
Yeah, I love this thing. I thought it was a fantastic film.
Hey, let's go. We're all really happy and positive. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, that never happens.
I know.
I think that's going to be the end of this episode. I think we're going to just...
Oh, yeah, no.
Hi everyone, this has been Ghouly Gentleman, and the purest horror of all was agreement.
Honestly, I didn't expect anyone to not like it because it's one of those movies that I feel like is just extremely simple.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of like little tense beats to it, but like it doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't try too hard any one way or the other. It's just like a fun thriller that's interesting and unique. And it's got like the iconic moments that kind of stick in your head more than anything. Like the baseball kid who keeps saying his arm is mint, which is a really good line. That weird mask that Ethan Hawke wears the entire time. That tense as fuck sequence when he's trying to like get the padlock off the door.
For real.
Like, just a really well executed thriller compared to something like I don't know if you guys have seen Sinister. I maintain exactly what you do, Ian, with AVP Requiem, which is I don't think anyone has seen Sinister because that movie is too fucking dark.
not in tone. Literally, I cannot see what is going on.
Literally, I watched it with my friends a few years ago, and like we all literally sat there and like we could not see the screen. I had no idea what's going on in that movie.
Yeah,
I've seen that film as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't. I heard that film.
No, we heard that film, and allegedly Ethan Hawke showed up. He was the whitest thing on screen.
I love fucking Ethan Hawke's mask in this. It's like it's so cool how they just, I guess, to be like a slasher, you just part one is like to subscribe to the slasher clubs. You got to get a fucking creepy ass mask, right? And the fact that it like comes apart and he's got like different sections to it and shit. So he's got like the no mouth, and then he's got like the creepy smiley face, and then he's got the like mad frowny face, and just the variations that allows them to do in this was really fucking cool.
And that's something that's completely original to this movie. That's not in the short. He doesn't have a mask at all in the short story, which I think was a really good addition, especially in terms of it being a visual medium as well. Mm-hmm. It makes what is in the book, you get a description of the killer, and it's just your very stereotypical, portly, balding, like child serial killer stereotype that we always kind of think, which for a short story, you don't want to waste much time in terms of characterizing this dude. You just want him to be the antagonistic force that we're all familiar with, the fear of the child kidnapper, right? So you just go for the stereotypical depiction. But for a cinematic film, being able to have him be this faceless figure but still get a performance out of it, and be able to, like you said, Ian, like swap out the pieces to get different emotions depending on the scene. Like I remember that shot where he's in the darkness the whole way through, and then once he drops the play and like walks forward and you see the frowny face, like, that's such a good way of holding back the thing so it looks like he just changed his expression without having them. Like you can only do that on film or like in a visual medium.
Yeah, that one's really good. The fucking the scenes with the food, I think, are my favorite scenes with it. Where they fucking like, eat it, don't. Why would I need to drug you? I've already had to. And it's just got like that smiley face. It's fucking creepy.
It's also just like really fun metacasting to put Ethan Hawke in this, because it is very much about this kid learning to develop confidence in captivity, to find the strength to break out, and he takes all the lessons from all the other kids that were killed here, almost like anime style, where they all give him a different skill before he's able to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But
No,
then
go ahead. Finish your point, Steve.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it's fun that Ethan Hawke is the bad guy in this, because it's a coming of age story from the kid's perspective, and Ethan Hawke's entire career is just coming of age movies. Like he got his start in Dead Poet Society, which is like the quintessential coming of age movie, but then he's also in the Before trilogy, which is that trilogy of rom-coms where you meet the same couple 10 years apart each time, and each movie is made that way. So you see this guy kind of grow up through the course of those movies. He's in Boyhood. He's in a bunch of other like Linklater style movies that are just about taking a person going through a hurdle through numerous years. And so it's fun to see him not play that role at all, but to be the antagonistic force to someone else playing that role in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about it in that way. That's pretty funny.
But you know, to your point, Steve, about like again, like it being like that very anime, like you learn the lessons of everyone that came before. The one thing I was waiting for with that is, you know, that shot in every anime where like the hero is standing and like the villain's looking at him. I was like, wait, no, and then like sees like the spirits of like the people that have fallen behind them, like the fucking anime ass shot. I was waiting for that shot in this film. I am kind of just, it wouldn't have fit with the tone. But I really wish they just fucking did it. I just have all the kids stand behind him, fucking like, oh, how far are you going to improve? Like, just like kind of.
But to your point, he does have like the ghost shadowing him the whole time, so
Yeah,
it's still kind of there.
You get so close, but they don't quite go there. It was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
No, I dig that. I really appreciate when movies can be dark and serious and about things, but pull off those sort of cheesy things, like a really gimmicky but intricate mask. The fact that this kid is learning like a very basic lesson, like Steven Spielberg kind of epitomizes that sort of style of how do you make a serious movie that's also just fun popcorn bullshit. And this is kind of that, in my opinion. It's a horror equivalent to that. It's a lot like a lot of Steven Spielberg's earlier movies, where you do kind of just focus on like a really core emotional thing that everyone goes through, which is how do you find confidence as a kid? And you just throw it at the most absurd stakes possible, which is a fucking child killer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're literally growing up while facing someone that is going to kill your childhood. It's such an on the nose metaphor. I love it.
Yeah, no, for real. Like the things I was not prepared for in this movie was the fact like the kids were gonna start showing up. I was not fucking like the first time that kid like fucking appears, I was like legit jump scare.
Yeah,
that one like legit got me, and then as they keep coming in, I was like, oh, I don't like this. It was better when they were just a voice. Like it gets better. Like as soon as they're on screen, it's fine. But like they make them creepy as fuck the first time they appear, each one of them, and it's kind of terrifying in all honesty. But yeah, I really I like that, and I like just the premise of the phone that'll like. You never know if it's like actually ringing, or if it's just the fucking like if it's just the like spiritual connection or something that they hear it ringing, because there's that vagueness of like the very first thing the killer says to the kid when he wakes up is, "Do you hear the phone? Do you hear a phone ringing?" That whole shit is fucking. I love the vagueness and the creepiness that lends to it.
There's a really, and it's in the film as well, but that's from the I think that gets the most focused in the short story, is they have a bit where like you can only hear it if you've been there long enough, and it's the only way they can kind of make communication with you. And like they say like, oh yeah, sometimes we prank call them just to piss him off, like just to mess with him a bit, but that's all we can do. And the reason why you can hear it is you're the first one of us that can hear this. Upstairs means he hasn't been able to kill you as quickly as he would have for the rest of us. We never got this chance. I mean, that's a really interesting way of like, it's not necessarily that Finney himself is special. He's just the one kid that got lucky enough with the circumstantial of like how this killer was doing his thing, and his brother showing up upstairs and like he couldn't do things the way he wanted to. And when you have it in hindsight now and you watch the film and like he's talking about, oh, there's someone upstairs and I can't do it, it's like you're thinking like what's going on with that. And then once the thing with the brother comes in, and that's from the short story as well, I think that's a very good way of not doing because this is a very hard film to make with the subject matter, is you could very easily get insensitive with this kind of thing and make it a little bit too power fantasy. Um, I like how they went with and especially in like a horror film, like you don't want to make the hero feel like the ultimate special survivor kid, and all the other kids just weren't good enough. Like that's something that can make it feel again a little hollow.
Yeah.
How they do is his, where it's just you're here circumstantially, and now we can help you, but you just have to follow our mistakes. And it's like that trial by error. Is like we all died learning one thing, but the sum total of all of us together can now help you. I think is a really, really fucking strong premise for like an escape story, and making it so the people that are killed still get to be characters. They don't just get to be body fodder of like this guy's killed a bunch of kids. It's like every single one of these kids gets to have an important role in this escape. It truly takes all of them to do it, and I think that was really, really cleverly written.
I really also really like that he has different relationships to all these kids, so he's not like, inclined to listen to them immediately, because you've got that really great opening with the baseball game, and they kind of set it up very briefly just in the cinematic language of like of that rivalry between them as he's on the pitcher's mound and he gets the 2 strikes and then home run and how disappointed he is. But then that kid immediately just turns around and compliments him, and they are kind of cool with each other. And then you've got his friend that helps him stick up with the bullies. You've got the bully himself. Like there's a whole bunch of dynamics going with all of them. So when they teach him different lessons, it does genuinely feel like he has to grow or learn or think about his relationship to them before he accepts it. Like it's not just matter-of-fact advice. It's contextualizing their relationship. Also, the kid that defends him from the bully has one of the greatest lines of dialogue ever, where he's like, "I just saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's the greatest movie of all time." And then Finney is like, "Better than Enter the Dragon." And then he's like, "Maybe second best." That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like
that.
their relationship. That was good. That was sweet. Sorry.
Yeah, I really like them. I think the weakling for me in the movie is the sister, to be honest.
Oh, really? In what way? Like, do you mean narratively or as an actress?
So I like the actress a lot. I like a lot of her scenes in isolation.
Jesus, what the fuck?
There's something about her interactions with like how defiant and resistant she is to her abusive dad, to that really good scene between them where like they try to humanize the dad a little bit, and they don't make him a good person, but you kind of see where this paranoia comes from and with relationship to her dreams. How close they are as brother and sister, I really like. I think all that stuff is good and interesting, but it kind of has that Shining thing of like she just kind of has superpowers out of nowhere, and it feels like it doesn't fit with the tone of the rest of the movie. Like I like her dialogue a lot. I like that scene where she's like, "Jesus, what the fuck?" But I don't totally love the whole dream psychic bullshit in this movie, especially in a movie where I feel like the one sort of supernatural element is purely that metaphorical element of what he's learning from the kids while he's trapped. I think it kind of cheapens that by giving her a weird psycho link thing that just, I don't know, it feels too gimmicky horror novel to me.
I think that's fair, because while I was watching this, like Erin was beside me and she'd watched this before. But I think something we both agreed on was like we thought the actress who played the girl might just be the best fucking actor in this movie. Like, when
100%.
In that scene when she's like getting beat by her dad, and she's just responding to him through clenched teeth and tears, and like that's so well done. It's almost like, is this like real? Like, is this, it really, and that's so hard to do. So I think like she gets massive props for being so good in that part. But and she doesn't really. She has a little role in the short story, but it's not in the same. It's kind of the hint at something that she's very like intuitive. But this just goes to full on, like you said, the kind of like that the Shining like level of like psychic dream power. I agree with you that is the aspect of the film that I don't love as much. It doesn't. You could almost cut those parts out, and it doesn't really change much. It doesn't really affect anything, but I think the actress is so good that I don't really mind her because I like seeing her on screen because I think she's really, really compelling. Like I think that kid definitely is going to go play. You're in a film with a lot of really good actors, especially of a really good child actors. But she was fucking like Jesus Christ. She went
Yeah, no,
hard in that for
she's
no reason.
really, really good in the movie.
I didn't mind her and her role. I do agree she's a really good actress. I didn't really mind her role. I guess just because I'm kind of used to that. We kind of do these things where we kind of balance these things out. We're like, oh, there's supernatural elements in this way, and then there's others in this way. It's not all just one thing. So it didn't really affect me, I guess. But I think I can see where you're coming from. Of like, yeah, it's a little much. It's a little out of nowhere and doesn't necessarily like all it really serves to do is kind of like fill time and provide a little bit of like last minute drama that I guess doesn't really need to be there when you get right down to it, because the scene with him in the basement in the final confrontation, as it were, is pretty fucking tense already. Right. I don't know like how much the police are almost there adds to it.
And like, yeah, I mean, the thing about it is I like some of the dialogue and I like the chemistry between the brother and sister. Like there is that line that his lab partner has earlier on where she's like, she's like jealous of how close they are. Not even jealous, but just like appreciates how close he and his sister are. And you see that in their dynamic really well. They have really good dialogue and they have really good chemistry together. And if the vision, psychic, dream bullshit was like more connected to their relationship and her experiencing what he's seeing, or her way of like of providing a window into what their relationship is, in particularly in respect to both being kids that are abused by this alcoholic dad, I would be more forgiving of it. But it does kind of just feel like it's the plot device power to kind of get the story where it needs to go. And I wouldn't mind the story just making leaps to get us there. Like I wouldn't mind if like the police just showed up and there's no explanation. The fact that it kind of uses that plot as an explanation makes me not like it as much as I maybe would have otherwise.
I mean, I think it's just like ultimately what her story does is kind of just pad time and create like that tension of drama of like, oh well, they find the kid in time, well they find the kid in time. And truthfully, you didn't really need to add supernatural powers. You could just have a detective who's like been on this case and getting like pissed that he keeps failing these kids and is just trying extra hard and kind of running down every lead like crazy now, right?
Did you love, by the way, how easy everyone is accepting of these visions? Like the cops are just like, yeah, no, absolutely, she had a dream, let's go.
I mean, it's like the 70s, right? Like
everyone's into that shit at the time.
Well, no, like especially because like that was kind of like the fad at the time. Like there's a reason that they did that plot threads, because that was kind of like a thing for a while. The idea that like psychics could help solve crimes and stuff, that was kind of going around for a while. So I guess I didn't really bat too much of an eye at that, especially because they set it up with like, it's not like they go to her school and like, so you had a dream about this, so you're psychic. They think that she like heard something or something like that. So I don't know. I thought that worked fine enough. That part didn't bother me about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the stuff with her. It's just it does definitely feel like it's padding, especially because everything with him locked up in that room is already just so good. Like, just as a locked room mystery of just those scenes, I think it works so well. I mentioned it earlier, but like the scene where he's trying to unlock the bike lock on the door, Jesus, is that intense?
Oh my god. Like the when the fucking focus shifts to him in the background there, and he's still asleep and not moving, and then it shifts back to Vin. I'm like, oh man, you fucking see that blur in the background's gonna fucking move at any second.
And the sound design of like the ticks on the lock and his snoring overlapping And the second like he gets out and that dude runs like a bat out of hell to chase after him, it's so tense.
Okay, can I do my fucking nitpick thing though? Um,
What
as a kid who grew up in the suburbs, right? Like I thought this through, and I do actually have experience of having to have dealt with this. Um, if you piss off someone who is chasing you in a car, uh, run through a fucking yard. I just the fact like if he had chased him on foot, I would not have this problem. It's the fact that like he chased him in the van and like Vin fucking ran into it. I'm like, no man, just cut through a fucking yard. What are you doing?
Yeah, but again, that's one of those things like the horror movie, kid, adrenaline, already freaking the fuck out. I can excuse it, but definitely if you want to look at it, it's like, I was like, why don't you just, at the very least, turn fucking left to a fucking house?
Right? Like it's just like I don't so much have a problem with like the scene after that where he's got a knife to him and he's like, if you fucking scream, I'll cut you like a pig here in the street. Because like there's the logic of, well, I mean, if you fucking do that, then you're caught anyway, and I'm dead if I go back with you. So what do I have to lose? But like that, I understand that. Like emotionally, that makes more sense, right? But it's just the logic of, I remember fucking walking home from school one day with a friend, saw this van pass, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna hit that van with a snowball. No, you're not. And I hit the fucking van with a snowball, and the person stopped the van and started backing up. I was like, fucking bye, and I dipped, and like started just fucking cutting through yards. He wasn't gonna catch my ass. You know, it takes longer to drive down the street than it does to cut through like two people's backyards. You got to go around 2 blocks to get to me now, and by that I'm already through 2 more people's backyards. You know, I have exponential lead on you.
Yeah, the sort of goofier sides of it I do still kind of enjoy too. It does in its own way feel like a movie that could have been made in like the late 70s, early 80s. Like it is just that kind of like short, like 98-minute thriller with a kid as the lead and very few sets and a darker color palette and everything, and a goofiness to it, but that same emotional sincerity. I was surprised by like just how unsettling it ended up being, because I wouldn't even call it like a straight up horror movie. Like this isn't even a horror movie on the same level as like other kidnapping movies you'd watch, like Saw or something. Like this is more than anything, this is like a psychological thriller focusing on this kid. But I was surprised still by just like how well Scott Dickerson's able to like paint a dark atmosphere throughout, that it still feels like a horror movie, that everyone in the town, you don't see a lot of them, but you get that same sort of sense of everyone's kind of neglectful, that everyone's terrified of this running around serial killer, that everyone kind of has this emotional distance to them as they go home and lock their doors. And it capitalizes on that, and we did an episode on this a while ago, on this modern like true crime craze. And the fact that we're talking about this as the Jeffrey Dahmer TV show is just blowing up on Netflix. Like all of these things historically kind of overlap, and I think that kind of adds to what makes this movie so creepy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It does feel like, for a movie with psychic children and fucking ghosts of murdered boys, it does feel very real in a way. As far as just like the human reaction.
No, it totally does. And I think all of the actors really ground it. Like, I always appreciate when you have a character who you decide is kind of the bad guy early on, like the dad. Where like from the very beginning, you know, like this guy is a drunk, this guy abuses his children, this guy is neglectful, and there's nothing you can do to like excuse those behaviors. But the movie really does kind of go out of the way to, at the very least, give you a sense of empathy for him when he explains their mom killing herself because she had dreams too, and she couldn't tell the difference between her dreams and her reality. I really like that, and I really like that you this is the kind of movie that takes seriously every character that's in it and treats them like actual people, and it grounds you in their emotions in a way that doesn't feel like it's just kind of checking off of a list of beats you need to get through the movie. Like, I like the diversity of the kinds of kids that he's getting advice from, that his relationships are different to all of them. Even when you get to like that sort of final triumphant moment where he gets back to school and he's doing like the cool guy walk down and the demeanor is different. You see the evolution there. You see where this kid went from one kind of style to a different one, and how many people kind of edged him along this way. And you don't need the closure of, well, what happened with the dad and what happened with the kid's dreams. Like it is entirely just his story, and all of these other people are peripheral to that story, but not in a way that feels like they're just fodder.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little on the fence about the characterization and use of the dad, because I'm not entirely sure that it like adds enough to the story to justify it, and it kind of feels like almost like a little bit of a distraction from things at a certain point. I guess the reason that I'm like so on the fence about it is that scene with them at the end where like he comes to them in the ambulance, he's like, I'm so sorry, and I'm like, I'm glad that they don't show like an embrace and like oh, they've clearly forgiven him, they've looked past this. I'm glad that they were kind of above doing that, but I don't know, it's still, I think that's the scene where I have the weirdest like leftover feelings of.
I think there's a level of you contextualize where they were before when he got kidnapped, where the daughter, the sister, is the one that's getting beat, and the one that's like yelling back with gritted teeth, the one that has all of the confidence. He's getting the shit kicked out of him, and she just comes in with a fucking rock.
Oh, that's the best.
Shit out of the dude. Like you see that, and you realize that that's this kid's arc, that he needs to get to a point where he's not letting his little sister beat up his bullies with a rock, even though it's fucking hype. And even in the scene where like he's like where the daughter's getting belted, and he's just kind of standing there, like he's outraged about it, but he's not really doing anything. I think the thing about it that I like by the end is that the dad is clearly in that archetype of the abusive dad who's going to kind of always go back and forth. He's going to be sorry and let you watch TV, but he's still going to drink a lot and beat you after he's drunk. And so you're not going to see any change from him in that moment. But after this kid has sort of been through this, I think you can very clearly see that he isn't going to be the one who's going to sit around and take it anymore. That he's going to be closer to what his sister was doing, that he's going to look out for her more. He has that cool guy walk in the school, and he has that confidence to him. And I think that open-endedness is what I like about it, is that it doesn't solve that relationship, but by the end you realize it's going to go on a different path because of what he just went through. And in a way, he does beat the crap out of his own abusive father when he escapes the serial killer house. Like, he's learning to grow past that through the entire movie. And at the end, when he's faced with it, he doesn't have to tell the dad off, but you know that's where he's going to land.
Fair point. I guess it works better within those confines. I don't know. It just was one of those things where I'm like, they're clearly doing something with this. I just don't know if it like 100% hits and feels worth the thing, but I don't know. You make a good argument if nothing else.
And what's interesting about it is that's something that is added in this. In the short story, his dad is not abusive at all. His mother's still around. And the only bit we get about them is they're both very worried and had an argument that they wanted to move out of the neighborhood because they were scared of the grabber, and that's like the only bit they get mentioned in the entire short story. So that whole plot line is entirely invented for the film. But I tend to find myself leaning more to Steve's side of things, where something about this film that's just visually really striking is how hard they go with the violence. Like the fights between kids and stuff like that, like there's always blood. There's no fight in this where someone walks away without a fucking gash from the fucking head bleeding profusely. Like every single time there's a fucking scrap, it always gets super fucking bloody. And there's a rawness to that, and there's a truth to that, which I think is kind of what the film is trying to be about. Of in childhood, and this time period of the 70s is very much America was still in its innocence youth about violence. Like there was much more of a lax view on violence in general compared to about like the 2000s, where there was still this naivete about it. There's still like this innocence. So the idea of doing you're confronted with the embodiment of the violence, of the stranger danger, of the outsider, and this kid who has taken the hits all his life and doesn't really fight back and doesn't like to look at the violence, just kind of wants it to go away. Like, his dad beats him, he gets bullied at school, and he sees people fighting. He's friends with someone who fights. So, like, he'll take it and he'll move on, but he doesn't like it, and he's just not worth it, it's gonna go away. And being very much confronted with this is never gonna go away. This is the world. You either get ready to fight back and defend yourself, or you will die. And I think that's a very, very good, very, very real coming of age story of not just about like physical violence, but just in terms of like emotional abuse, or in terms of problems in life where eventually you do just have to kind of nut up and grow to be able to overcome these things that are going to take you and thing. Because if you don't, you're gonna get chances, you're gonna get tests, but eventually they are going to break you or destroy you or whatever, right? And I think that's a very consistent theme throughout the film that we go through, and this depiction of violence I think is done very, very well.
And I think to our points that we talked about this with reference to like Superman stories last week, but or maybe it was 2 weeks ago at this point, I don't remember. But there is a sort of level of like, okay, you have to be idealistic, you have to turn the other cheek, you have to be mature. And that's all fine and good, but at a certain point that becomes kind of a condescending thing to do. And I do truly 100% believe, and maybe this is the jaded millennial in me, but kids should get to fight. Like, kids are gonna fight. If two guys who are like 12 years old just need to beat the shit out of each other to get it out of their system and move on with their lives, let them do it. Like, it's fine. Kids are going to do this shit regardless. So I'm entirely okay with that. But I also do sort of feel like there is a level of like, you can only tell people to like turn the other cheek and be mature, quote unquote, so many times before the real lesson is just like, no, get strong, get through it, stop being a bitch, and just fight your way out. And I think under certain circumstances, that is the better message. And that is a more realistic one, to just be like, there is no reasoning with this. You just kind of have to learn how to step up.
But Steve, violence is never the answer.
Violence is always the answer.
But Steve, violence is never the answer.
You're right. Violence is not the answer. Violence is the question. The answer is yes.
There you go. I think that's done very well with like the killer's whole like naughty boy game. Like how he plays it is by lying or taking these traps that he leaves out there. I think is very much a good way of like just doing that as well isn't the answer. You have to be smart about it. You have to know your moment. You can't just respond with breaking the rules and doing this, because that's going to also get you in hot trouble. You can't. Violence isn't the answer. It's not a fascism like you win by being the strongest. It's like, no, you know how the world works, and you just pick your chance to strike. You just have to make sure it's the right moment where this is where you have to stand up. Because sometimes it is better to just let it pass by and not get involved. Sometimes that is the solution to these problems. And I think that's you have to be very, very strong with writing to be able to get across that without it being a lecture, with it just being a compelling narrative the whole way through. So really, really, really well done stuff.
But what's so good about that here too is like he fails so many times taking the advice of the other kids to get out of here. Like the padlock thing fails, digging a hole fails, going in and like busting through that wall with the toilet seat fails. Like he keeps getting into situations, he keeps learning things, and it doesn't work until he finally gets to the point where he's like, okay, there is no escape. There is no clever way out of this. You just have to like dig your heels in and beat the shit out of this dude. And he's clever about it, but he does it. And like that progression, the fact that he's allowed to like be given advice, it doesn't work, he tries something else, and that at the end of the day, the movie is really just how much more can he take before he just stops resisting? And the answer is he won't ever stop resisting. He's going to find a way out, because that's what you have to do. I liked all of that. I thought that was all really, really good. Like this is not like a groundbreaking message, but it's so competently done and it's so universal that it's just great. I really, really like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a fucking great way to do this, because that is, like you said, Steve, it's a controversial take of like, oh, well, sometimes kids should just fucking beat the shit out of each other. Like, it sounds crazy, and it's like against every fucking PSA and thing you learned in school, but like, no, legit, there's not that fighting is good per se, it's just it's effective to teach you things. And
Yeah,
if you're ever going to do like shit like that in your life, yeah, when you're a kid is the appropriate time for it. You know, it's the problem comes more when you got like fucking grown ass men fighting and shit, right?
there is nothing wrong with children fighting, but there is definitely something wrong with being a grown ass adult and not knowing in the worst possible situation how to throw a proper punch. So you never want to be in a situation where you need to punch someone. Like, the first rule of self-defense is get out of the situation. But at some point, if you need to throw a punch, you better know how to throw a punch. And the best time to learn is when you're 12 on the playground beating the shit out of your friends. Either that or take classes, but you know.
Yeah, I'd also advise taking classes. Yeah, but sometimes as well, you learn through trial and fire.
Did everyone else here have the situation where you got in a fight at school and you came home and your dad got told about it, and like you were supposed to be lectured to, and your dad just taught you how to fight better?
Yes.
When that happened to me, my dad fought me.
Ooh. Dark Alfie origin moments.
Oh my god. No, fighting is a natural, healthy thing that children do, and this is why Cobra Kai is the best show on television, because season 5, Johnny is just like, you two have been at each other's throat all day. I'm just gonna make you two beat the shit out of each other until you're done, and it works.
I mean, this is why I think duels should make a comeback.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Definitely needs to have.
that's what I'm saying. Anytime Alfie and I disagree, we just throw out our decks. Blue Eyes handle this. I like the quirky brother. He, like the psychic sister, is another weird sort of like Stephen King-y 70s, 80s horror story kind of caricature. But he's fun. I like him. I like his map. I like that he just assumes that the police are there because he's helping with the investigation. That's a good moment. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of him. He does kind of just immediately die, but that's okay. He was fun.
Holy shit.
Do you want to find out about how I love that that's his first fucking instinct to fucking be so proud about himself. But
that dude should play the Riddler.
Yeah. The fucking the part I like about that, because that's as well, that's in the short stories. He does that exact scene where he comes down. He's like, "Oh my god, you want to know I found it?" He gets hit. We don't get like the previous scene when he's like upstairs or anything. But what I like about that in these horror stories, like we always do the trope when the serial killer's got like someone upstairs, either like his mother or like a family. It's always something creepy or like thing. Just the fact that this fucking like murder just has a fucking cokehead brother that comes home and is like sleeps on his couch and does conspiracy theories. But he's like, but he's my brother. I still love him. Like that's just so much more fucking real. Like it's just like what I could 100% buy that a lot more. It was just like he just got inconvenienced during his fucking serial killer rampage. Like, of course that shit would happen. So, like, you're trying to do this shit. It's like, oh yeah, do you mind if I crash for him? He's like, man, I've got some fucking kids in my bed. All right, fine. I just make sure you don't fucking leave a mess. Don't go in the basement. Like, I think that's really, really funny in like such a fucked up way.
Honestly,
like, imagine,
if he wasn't,
the rest of... Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, if he wasn't murdering children, you'd almost want a sitcom from his perspective.
I was just about to say, right? Like, you want to have the fucking like. It's the fucking
No, I think keep
like...
the murdering children. That's what I want from this. I want the prequel spin-off series. It's just fucking really uncomfortable. Because like the series never actually addresses what's happening. It just casts the same two fucking guys, right?
If you know, you know.
Yeah, it's the ultimate in joke.
So everyone that never watched the series before is like, Alamo, what's he got in his basement? It's like that fucking Mr. Incredible meme where it's just like if you know what he's got in the basement, it's a depressing fucking thing.
I will say, if there's anything that hurts the iconic legacy of the killer with the mask in this movie, it's that the grabber is the dumbest name ever.
I mean, that sounds like a very 70s serial killer name to me, so I don't really have a problem with that one. I think the thing that's like the harder bit to buy here is, oh yes, the serial killer owned 2 houses, and he was doing his serial killing in the one with another dude there? Why?
The 2 houses also being right across the street from each other is pretty funny.
Yeah, no, that was something else. I mean, like, you know, in this day and age, I'd be like, who the fuck could afford 2 houses for their serial killing? But like, I think that's the only reason that this needed to be set in the 70s, is to make that part plausible.
Honestly, if the idea was serial killers make enough money to own 2 houses, I think I would change professions. Like, sign me up, man. I just gotta kill some kids every now and then. I'll do that shit for free. I can take on like 7 12-year-olds. Come on.
So, like, okay. You know how, like, the one, like, bully kid is like, oh, I fucking ruined his basement and shit, and, like, broke into the freezer and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much renovation work was this dude doing in between children that he murdered? Because he had to fucking, like, he had to rebury the like, dirt where the one kid dug down at the foundation. He had to, like, put the cable back in the wall. He had to fucking apparently, like, re-spackle a whole fucking wall to get to that
everyone in the
freezer.
70s were the DIY kings. If you couldn't re-spackle a wall, you were not a man in the 70s.
That's a fair point. That's fair. I'm not a man. I did spackling when we left our apartment. It was like the absolute shittiest thing I've ever done. Like, oh my god, the work quality was fucking garbage.
I had to spackle one thing ever, and it was miserable, and I hated it. Why would we do this? It's called spackle. It doesn't even sound fun. Okay. Here's my.
Oh wait,
my...
can I one thing before you go off on that?
Yeah.
Going back just a little bit to the whole like children fighting thing, because I remembered it when I was talking about the bully kid. That fucking kid got in a 2v1 where one of the kids had a knife, and he rocked both of their shit.
I'm telling you, sometimes you just need to toughen kids up by throwing them at other kids. It's a very normal thing for people to do.
Chad right there.
I know,
Oh
like,
God.
do you know how much like physical effort it takes to fight just one person for like 30 seconds? The idea of taking on 2 at once and one of them has a knife and just fucking wrecking shit. My god. What a Chad.
We stand a child abuse king.
Right? Like, for real. That guy fucked shit up.
What was I gonna say? No, you're good. The other thing that stuck out with me, or stuck out to me with this movie is it's very minimalist in a lot of ways, where like the score is very naturalistic. It's just a lot of like sounds and nature and buzzing and stuff, and there's like a little bit of that suspenseful horror score, but nothing overstated. All of the actors are doing a really good job, but the cast is so small, and there's only like 3 locations in the whole movie, because there's like the school, there's the Finney's house, and then there's the kidnapper's basement. Like, we don't really go around a lot. It's interesting how quickly movies like this can kind of turn around, because there's always going to be those bigger budget movies, stuff like Doctor Strange that Dickerson did before this, that are like 2 years of production that go into all of these different locales and stuff, and they take away a lot of your life because not even the 2 years it takes to put those together is not even the whole time you're working on it. But then you look at movies like this that feel like they can be made within the span of like a couple months in the summer on the off time. A good example of this is like Ryan Johnson talked about how like making The Last Jedi was like 4 years of his life, and Knives Out was written, cast, and shot in less than a year. Like it stuff like that is just amazing to me, and I really love when a director who goes from like a really big blockbuster movie to going to make something like this. Like it's funny just like how much quicker the turnaround is when the production scale is so much smaller.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Like, there's that, and there's just, like, the momentum of a project.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you see stuff that, like, gets made just almost overnight, and then you see stuff that's, like, fucking languishes for years. Especially, like, when you talk about, like, super belated sequels, like your Terminator 3s, you know?
Yeah.
This shit's, like, always crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even necessarily a bad thing. Like productions like that take a while. It's just like the kind of whiplash you feel. Like I just watched Confess Fletch the other day, which is that new John Hamm detective movie. That movie was shot in 27 days. Like that just sounds so unreal in the year 2022. But it's a whole ass movie that goes through multiple locations, filmed in Boston, or that's set in Boston and in Rome, and the whole movie was filmed in less than a month. Like that's so crazy.
I did not know that. That's nuts. Random little thing. I got pretty hyped when a fucking Pink Floyd song was used for, like, tension music in one of the scenes. That was pretty fucking cool. I was like, oh yeah, fucking Pink Floyd! Let's go!
It does a really good job of feeling like a 70s movie. Like, it just, it has all of the right references. It's pretty legit.
Yeah, no, it's... You could reasonably have convinced me this came out in the 70s. I would have believed you.
Just throw like a grainy filter on it and don't tell anyone, and you could totally see it as a 70s movie.
Yeah.
It's shot really well to mimic that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just, like I said, hype for Pink Floyd. More Pink Floyd music and more things, please.
Pink Floyd makes for a good hype track, that's for sure.
You know what? Like, I'm beginning to think the director's just a Pink Floyd fan because fucking Vegetable Man is in Doctor Strange. So,
I mean, yeah.
I gotta comb through his other movies and see if he fucking puts a Pink Floyd song in every movie, because if so, maybe he's the greatest director of all time.
Well, if you ever listen to Sinister, let me know and see if you find any Pink Floyd songs in there. You definitely won't find a movie.
I don't know. I'm curious now. If
Sinister, I give a lot of shit to Sinister. It's really not even that bad. It's just, it's so dark and it's so weirdly disjointed. And Sinister is kind of the opposite of a lot of the movies we see now, where it's not about a child serial killer. It's about a bunch of children serial killers. So the twist in that one is pretty clever and unique and pretty fucked up, but it just doesn't feel like it's particularly well executed. I think that's a case of, that's a horror movie that came out when we were doing very specific kinds of weird quasi-supernatural horror movies and possession movies that had degrees of realism to them, like Insidious and stuff, where that kind of need to make it feel shock value-y and dark and serious overpowered the fun, goofy side of it that it could have. And Black Phone, I feel like, definitely strikes the like right balance for him. Like, this is probably the best movie he's ever done that I've ever seen, at least. I've only ever seen like 4 or 5 of his movies, but this is definitely the best.
It fucking hits. I guess the question is it the talent's finally showing, or is it just like one of those flash in the pan kind of movies, you know?
I think it's just a case of like any group of people, when they're all like firing on all cylinders and really comfortable with each other and turning in good jobs individually, can make it work. It just so happens that that's not usually what goes down with making a movie. Like, getting Scott Dickerson to direct Doctor Strange was a really cool idea, because you had this horror filmmaker who made a lot of weird, dark movies, had one major sci-fi sequel. To make a Doctor Strange movie makes it seem like you're going to get like this really gritty and disturbed and weird look at Doctor Strange, and that's just not what ended up happening. It's the same with Sinister and the same with Sinister 2, where like you have a guy who has like a vision for a really twist and turny horror movie, but the people and the materials aren't there to help make that vision better than just whatever his pitch was. And then you get to Black Phone, and like Ethan Hawke's having a really good time in his career right now. Scott Dickerson decided to not do Doctor Strange 2 and did this because he liked the story a lot. You get Joe Hill, who wrote the story, involved. You get the same screenwriter that he's been working with in all these movies, and everyone just like really knows each other and trusts each other, and they decide to just make a movie, and it works.
And that's the true meaning of friendship.
It's true. Friendship is making a movie together.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it was a fucking good time. I had a good time watching this one. This was a surprise smash. Anytime Steve picks a movie, I get like, it's either gonna be good or I'm gonna hate it.
It's usually about 70-30 with me and you, but I'm glad this hit the 30.
Yeah. You're not as bad as Rasco. Rasco was like into film with a capital F.
Rasco is definitely way more of a film nerd than I am, so he definitely has much more refined taste than me. I still need things to not be boring.
If only. So yeah.
If only.
Can you imagine fucking making a whole ass movie with Charlize Theron and then only having one slightly interesting scene, and it's not the scene where she fucks the car? Because I can't imagine how you fuck up that hard, but they did.
I mean, dang, even in that sentence, that was the most interesting thing you said. Like, whoa, where is this car fucking?
You don't remember that? You don't remember watching
I do
that
remember
movie?
this. I do remember. I'm just saying. Oh my god.
I don't even fucking remember the name of that movie. I just remember like, God, this is the most boring fucking movie anyone has ever made. And it's impressive because Charlize Theron fucked a car. Or no, wait, was it? What's the fucking name? Girl in the Mask. It wasn't Charlize Theron. It was someone else. Whatever. Doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we all enjoyed this one. It's definitely a movie I feel like I would go back to every now and then just because it's a fun ride and it's mercifully short, which is nice.
Yeah, in an era of 3-hour epics, this is nice and short and simple.
Yeah, man, I am very, very much down for the 90-minute tight scripts and fun concepts and quirkiness, and it completely hits for me. Which is funny because I also just watched the Elvis movie recently, and that's like 3 fucking hours long too, and it's also really good.
This is another one of those movies where the fucking audio balancing is all over the goddamn map.
Yeah, this is one where I had to have the remote in hand and go up and down a lot because I couldn't hear some scenes and I heard some other scenes too much. It was very annoying.
Yeah, one of those. But otherwise, we did okay. I enjoyed this one. Is there anything else anyone wanted to bring up before we get to wrapping up and doing scores and stuff on this one?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good as well. I'm fine with all this.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go to scores then. I'll go first, and I'll give this, I think 4 out of 5 multi-segmented masks that I'm really curious how he went about making. Like, is it paper mache, and he just, like, spent a lot of time, like, with his brother in the kitchen? He's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? It's like, I'm making something.
I'll give this 4 out of 5 amateur cokehead detective brothers.
I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 frowny faced mask swap outs.
Nice. Alrighty. Well, we need a review topic for next week. Mr. Alfie, do you want to go or should I go?
Review topic then. We're not doing like discussions like alternative or anything.
Nah, we're just gonna do reviews because it's like fucking doing discussions around the horror month is, and especially holiday month is fucking difficult. So we're just gonna. I'm calling dibs. We're gonna do one discussion topic this month. That'll get released on Halloween, but we're just doing horror movie reviews the rest of the month.
If it helps the rotation at all, this will go up on this Sunday, and then we'll have 2 more reviews before a topic. So if you're thinking about something that you were trying to save that you'd rather do sooner, we don't have a ton of time in October, so it'd be a good time to just like throw whatever your favorite is out there.
Okay. You guys can tell me if this fits, because I'm wanting to think that it wasn't like a film. So, and this is probably the horror comic character that's like got this the most in like his wheelhouse. Do you guys want to talk about Carnage USA?
I think that's fair.
Which is a very fucked up.
That's Colin Bunn, right?
Yeah.
How many issues is that off the top of your head?
Let me. Does Ian have it?
No, I don't. I don't have that.
I'm googling.
Oh, it's Zeb Wells actually who wrote this.
Oh, Zeb Wells. Okay, why did I think it was? Oh, it's because Colin Bunn did the Venom book at the time. He did Agent Venom after Rick Remender.
Right, and this is like one of those books where like mainly just because of the art, I think it fits as a horror book, but it is definitely not a superhero traditional story. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about like a comic, and it was the first thing that came to my head.
I feel like it would fit. If I remember right, that's basically Carnage goes to like a small Middle Western town and just like terrorizes the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many issues it is, but I would be game.
It's like 6 issues, I think.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, as long as it's not
really
like we're talking like 13, 14 issue run or something crazy.
No, it's a very short like mini.
Okay, no, I'm totally fine with that. Cool. Yeah, so next week we'll do Carnage USA. Sounds hype. I get to read a Spider-Man book.
A
Sounds good.
10-year-old Spider-Man book.
Oh, shut the fuck up, Steve.
We gotta get caught up somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the fuck was happening at Marvel in 2012, to be honest with you.
Dude, someone someone posted like a Google query, and it was how many episodes of television is the Flash Arrowverse? And it was like 709, and they're just like, yeah, you kind of had to be there.
And they're all like 40-minute long episodes.
Yeah.
The sad and disgusting thing about it is that depending on what shows you count, I guess I've probably seen most of that.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely have, Steve.
Yeah, because I used to do that fucking show, but I've seen all of Arrow. I'm 1 season behind on Flash. I've seen all of Supergirl, all of Lucifer, all of Constantine, most of Legends. But yeah, I think I've seen most of that. That's sad. Maybe like 100 shy.
Damn. That's rough, buddy.
Oh.
Why did you keep watching Arrow?
Arrow just got to a point. Arrow just got to a point where I'm like, this is just a weekly thing I put myself through now, and I just kept doing it. It was nothing but red flags. What do you want from me?
I love you so much, Steve Baxi.
Your life is not allowed to be miserable. I will make mine miserable on purpose.
I appreciate you.
Constantly.
All right. Well, yeah, that should do it. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I am a ghoul for fun.
That was incredible, and I'm not even going to try to top it. Peace out.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Ha 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 ha!